Hello, everyone. So, to start off, question number one, it says that sometimes people with disabilities are objectified for the benefit of individuals without disabilities. And to what extent do I agree or disagree with her on that? Um, I would say I definitely agree because I thought it was something example that she gave of her being 15 and someone came up and to her parents and wanted to nominate her for a Citizens Achievement Award, I think it was, and she was completely honest. Well, her parents were completely honest and was like she hadn't really achieved anything. And I think a lot of times for people that are considered, normal, non-disabled, we look at those that are disabled and we assume that they're facing some type of challenge every day. Like, for example, let's say you take someone that doesn't have arms and so they're having to use their feet to tie their shoes or whatever it may be. We may look at that sometimes and like, oh my goodness, what a challenge that may be, not realizing that it's really not even a challenge for them. This is something that they do every day. They grew up learning, just like how we grew up with our hands, learning how to do it with our hands. It's not a challenge. So, and I think we often forget that. So I definitely agree because I know that's happening a whole lot. So the second one is, as a teacher, how will I continue to question what I think I know about disabilities? I would definitely say to um, not assume, learn from what I'm seeing, and continue to question myself and watch myself to see if I was automatically, assuming things, not keeping an open mind about something, and continually looking. And when I say that, I'm saying, like, let's say, as a teacher, and I have a student that's disabled, continuing to look at that and learn from what I'm seeing, you know, just soak everything in, take everything in, not to keep them in a box, not to assume. I The second part to that question was, how will I ensure that I maintain high expectations for all students, including those with disabilities? Absolutely cannot assume that a student can't do something because they are considered disabled, or maybe lowering my expectation for them because they are disabled. But no, remembering that, and I know you have different forms of disabilities, but remembering that, you know, each student definitely has potential to reach a goal, even if my mom wanted to try to assume that they didn't, definitely have the potential to reach a goal, even if they have to reach it in a different way. So the third one said, why is inclusion important? I mean, inclusion for students with and without disability. I mean, inclusion, I mean, nobody wants to be left out. You know what I'm saying? Disabled or non-disabled, nobody wants to be left out and be left alone. I mean, we are creatures. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know you have some people that they like to spend time by themselves or things like that. But like, for example, if everyone just dropped off the face of the planet, and then let's say everyone dropped off the face of the planet, you was the only one person left on the planet, and let's say a couple of months went by, and then out of nowhere you just saw one person walking. I mean, you are going to be like, oh my goodness, you're going to be trying to get their attention. You're going to be trying to grab them because nobody wants to be alone. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So I'm like, definitely gotta keep inclusion. Inclusion is very important. We don't want anyone to feel left out. Don't want anyone to feel alone. Three challenges with having children that are disabled. I would say one would be, maybe say you take a family that has like three or four children, but only one of them is considered disabled. Oh, and they're having to make a lot of accommodations. Um, and maybe the siblings aren't really, some of the siblings just don't quite understand or are getting a little worn out. I would say that could be a challenge. I would say, as a teacher, if, let's say, for example, I had a student in my class that was considered, maybe only a couple of students. I had a big class, but only a few of them were considered disabled. I could give some tips to the parent on some things that I've done in my class, you know, to how to help in that area. I would say another thing that could be, I mean, as human beings, we face a lot of things that can try to still our joy. I would say though, sometimes with those that are considered disabled, if they're in an environment that's not, um, if they're in an environment, like for instance, let's just say you take a student that's in a wheelchair and they reach a part of the school and it doesn't have a ramp and it only has steps. Just wanting to make sure, so a lot of times people, if we feel like we're being a burden or something, we will start to get depressed or get let down. And I would say that could possibly be a challenge, but as a teacher, just making sure that I am listening to the parents, being there for them, giving um helpful advice as much as I possibly can from what I've learned from, um like for instance, what I may learn from this class alone, taking that and giving advice to the parents. I would say maybe another challenge would be maybe if a parent may be feeling a little overwhelmed, because I know there's different levels of disabilities. Like I knew a lady that seemed like she was a little overwhelmed. She had two autistic sons. One of them was what she would say severely. She said it herself, severely autistic. He was a grown adult, but he still had the mind of a 15-month old. And I would just say not being afraid to ask for help. And as a teacher, again, in any way that I can help them, being there for them as much as I possibly can, and even recommending things to them. Um, Even if I need to get other teachers, ask other teachers, get other people involved. Just I know, and again, I'll back up a little bit. I guess that's the third challenge is maybe not want to ask for help. Just don't be afraid to ask for help. And me as a teacher, being there to help them as much as I possibly can. The last question is how can schools encourage families um to be involved? I would definitely say making sure schools have accommodations for students with disabilities. That is very encouraging when a parent walks in and sees that a school is already fit, is already fitting the needs of their child. That alone is just encouraging to see with your eyes. Um, Making sure schools are again not limiting children with disabilities by any means whatsoever. Make sure we're keeping an open mind and allowing students to reach their goals. Um, and inclusion is another big one. Keeping everyone included.